Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Food and Nutrition, CFN, CFN1 You and Your Food. Block 2, Food Choice, Preparation and Preservation, Unit-10 Let us preserve food. Preserving foods when they are in plenty is a good practice since we can prevent wastage and we can consume them when they are not in season. In this unit, we discuss various methods of preserving and storing perishable, semi-perishable and non-perishable foods. 10.0 Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to define the meaning of food preservation, list common causes of food spoilage, classify the foods on the basis of their perishability, describe common methods of food preservation, and list the different foods and match them with the methods by which they can be preserved/stored. 10.1 Introduction. We preserve and store foods when they are produced and available in plenty, so that we can use them when they are not in season, are less easily available, and therefore expensive. You must have noticed that there is hardly any food that does not spoil over a period of time. Delay in the use of fresh foods alters the freshness, taste and nutritive value of these foods. Thus, they become less desirable and ultimately unfit for consumption. Depending upon the perishability, the foods can be divided into three categories. I. Non-perishable foods do not spoil easily and can be stored under proper conditions for several months. E.g., whole cereals, pulses, oilseeds, etc. 2. Semi-perishable foods can be kept for about a week to a month's time. E.g., flours, roasted oilseeds, biscuits, potatoes, onions, etc. 3. Perishable foods cannot be kept for more than a day or two without affecting their quality. E.g., milk and milk products, eggs, meat, fish, vegetables, etc. 10.2 Definition of food preservation. Food preservation is a process by which certain food like fruits and vegetables are prevented from spoilage for a long period of time. The color, texture, taste and nutritive value of foods is also preserved. 10.2.1 Need to preserve foods. We preserve food for the following reasons. Processed food add variety to the meals. We enjoy eating pickles with our meals. Food produced in excess can be preserved and used later in the year, when it is expensive and not available. Tomatoes can be processed into sauce when they are cheap and available in plenty. Processed foods can be transported to areas where food is not grown or available. Processed foods make transportation and storage of foods easy as they reduce the bulk and occupy less space. Processed foods are an asset during times like war, famine, floods where people need to be fed in large numbers. 10.3 Food spoilage. Food spoilage is the deterioration in the color, flavor, odor or consistency of a food product due to agents which make it unacceptable for human consumption. 10.3.1 Causes of food spoilage. The three main causes of food spoilage are: I. Microorganisms. 2. Enzyme action. 3. Insect and rodent damage. I. Microorganisms cause molding, fermentation and putrefaction in food. These microorganisms are usually found on the skin or outer layer of food and they penetrate inside the food only when the outer covering has been broken. 2. Enzymes are found in all fresh foods. E.g., they are found in fruits and vegetables. They are very important for the ripening of fruits and vegetables. However, If this action of enzymes continues even after the fruits/vegetables have become fully ripe, it brings about decomposition or undesirable changes in food. You must have observed the darkening of a cut surface, development of soft spots and offensive flavors in fruits and vegetables. These initial symptoms are caused by enzymes. Microorganisms can grow on such damaged vegetable tissues, causing fermentation. 3. You know that rodents, worms, weevils, bugs, fruit flies and moths damage food. They not only eat away food but spoil it by their excreta. You must have observed the cuts and bruises caused by these worms and insects on food, which serve as pathways by which microorganisms reach the interior of the food. Food is spoiled by microbial growth, enzyme action, insects and rodent damage. Therefore, if we have to prevent the damage to food due to any of the above causes, we have to use specific methods of handling and processing of food. An effective method of preservation is the one that slows down or prevents the action of agents of spoilage without damaging the food or adding harmful substances to it. This is done by controlling the temperature, humidity and sunlight, and also by prevention of damage by insects and rodents. Methods of food preservation aim at destroying the agents of food spoilage or slowing down their activity. Check your progress exercise 1. 1. Depending on their perishability, categorize the following foods. Category: A. Milk, B. Bread, C. Wheat, D. Wheat flour, E. Potatoes. 2. List the major causes of food spoilage. 3. Methods of food preservation: either the microorganisms or their growth. 10.4. Methods of preserving perishable and semi-perishable foods. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. The aim of food preservation, whether it means keeping the food for a day or two in the refrigerator or for a year or so in cans or a freezer, is to ensure I. Safety from pathogenic organisms or toxicity through chemicals, and 2. Maintenance of optimum quality of color, texture, flavor and nutritive value. We commonly use the following methods for preserving foods. 1. Cold storage. You must have sometimes eaten mangoes and lady's finger in December to January and cauliflower in June. Though expensive in off-season, these are available due to cold storage facilities. Foods can be kept for long periods of time in commercial cold storage rooms at proper humidity and very low temperature. Fruits and vegetables in cold storage are kept just above the point at which they freeze, 31 degrees 35 degrees Fahrenheit, while butter and meat may be kept at much lower temperatures. 2. Freezing. A large variety of foods can be preserved by freezing. When the foods are frozen, the bacteria are unable to grow and the enzyme action is retarded or inactivated by blanching prior to freezing. Before you decide to preserve foods by freezing, I. Select the foods with quality and maturity. 2. Blanch vegetables to inactivate enzymes. 3. Cool and pack foods in polythene bags, or moisture-proof wrapping foils, waxed paper or cellophane, etc. 4. Make small packs so that the entire package can be frozen quickly. You must store these foods at temperatures below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. In order to retain the flavor, texture and nutritive value, you must, however, ensure prompt use of frozen foods upon thawing. If you allow the food to stand for some time after thawing, microorganisms will multiply and may spoil the food. After thawing, never refreeze the food as the spoilage of soft tissues may have set in. 3. Refrigeration. This is the most commonly used method of preserving food in a household. You can store meat, fish, and poultry in the refrigerator for several days, while milk, curd and cheese can be stored for 2 to 3 days. You can also store vegetables and fruits for several days in the refrigerator without altering their texture, color, flavor and nutritive value. In order to ensure their crispness, these must be stored in polythene bags. You must remember to cover all foods and to place milk and other animal products in the coldest part of the refrigerator. Check your progress exercise 2I. What is the aim of food preservation? 2. List at least 2 food items each that can be preserved by cold storage, freezing and refrigeration. 4. Heat treatment: boiling, sterilization, pasteurization and canning. The microorganisms are killed or inactivated by heat. The more intense the heat treatment, the more effective the destruction of organisms. In canning, foods are sterilized in a few minutes or even seconds by the application of high-temperature processing. You may have read the word pasteurized on butter and milk packs. Did you understand what it meant? Pasteurization. This is a heat application process by which most of the microorganisms in milk or butter are killed. Food is subjected to high temperature for a short time and then cooled immediately. This helps to increase the duration over which the quality of milk and butter can be maintained. Since all microorganisms are not killed, you must store these under conditions which are unfavorable to their growth. You must have observed that curries and pulses, when kept outside for a few hours, are boiled vigorously to prevent spoilage. These are preserved by boiling and most microorganisms are killed at boiling temperature. 5. Dehydration. This is the process by which water is removed to increase the shelf life of the food. The principle of dehydration is that microorganisms are unable to grow in the absence of moisture. A few foods have very little moisture, e.g., grains and pulses. Yet it is necessary to dry these to less than 12% moisture in order to prevent spoilage. Foods preserved by this method include immature legumes, vegetables and fruits such as raw mangoes, figs, raisins, apricots, amla, green leafy vegetables like methi potatoes, carrots, turnips, cauliflowers, etc. Certain foods like roots and tubers, papads, fish, peas, bitter gourd, etc., are processed i.e., either boiled in water or salted before they are dehydrated through conventional methods of sun drying. Spray drying is a mechanical method of drying milk to form a fine powder which can be reconstituted with water to make fluid milk whenever required. You must have observed that dehydrated foods are markedly reduced in weight and therefore can be conveniently stored and transported. Practical Activity 1.1. List various foods that can be preserved by A. Sterilization and canning, B. Pasteurization, C. Boiling. 2. List 3 foods which you can preserve by dehydration. 6. Chemical preservation. We have all eaten pickles, jams, jellies and fruit preserves. How often do we think why the vegetables and fruits used in making the pickles, jellies, fruit preserves, etc., do not go bad, whereas fresh fruits or vegetables would perish within a few days? The effect of preservation is that various methods used in preserving foods in the form of pickles, jams, etc., inactivate the microorganisms by making the water unavailable for the growth of these microorganisms. This could be done by I. Use of salt and sugar. 2. Use of acid. 3. Use of oil and wax. 4. Use of chemical preservatives. I. Use of salt and sugar. Vegetables and fruits are often preserved by this method. This method involves either submerging of fruits or vegetables like amla, mangoes, potatoes, etc., in brine, salt solution, or adding or rubbing salt onto those vegetables in high concentrations. The presence of salt in high concentrations reduces the availability of water to microorganisms for their growth, thus preserving the foods. Similarly, submerging of cut and blanched fruits in sugar syrup, as is done in fruit preserves, restricts the microbial growth, thus preserving fruits over an extended period. 2. Use of acid. A strong acidic medium is not conducive for the survival of microorganisms. Hence we use vinegar or lemon juice effectively in preservation of vegetables, ketchup and tomato sauce, etc. 3. Use of oil and wax. Oil and wax have a unique property of forming a protective layer which shuts out moisture and oxygen in the air from coming in contact with the food they coat. This property of oil and wax is used for coating fruits such as lemons, apples, apricots, etc., to keep them fresh for a longer time. You would have observed that in many parts of India, it is a common practice to rub castor oil on grains and pulses so as to coat these with a thin layer of oil. This is done to enhance their keeping quality. Similarly, when oil is used in pickles, a top layer of oil is formed which prevent moisture or microorganisms in the air from coming in contact with food. 4. Use of chemical preservatives. Chemical preservatives include calcium propionate, potassium metabisulfite, sodium benzoate, benzoic acid, sulfur dioxide, etc. These must be used with great caution as they could be toxic if not used in proper concentrations. The chemical preservatives are used in the preservation of grains to prevent spoilage. Radiation. Radiation like gamma rays and ultraviolet rays have some use in the preservation of bread and cake products and packaging of bacon, meat and cheese in Western countries. These radiations are, however, mainly used to kill/reduce microorganisms in the air in the storage or processing room. You can preserve foods by cold storage, freezing, refrigeration, heat treatment, dehydration, chemical preservation, irradiation. Check your progress exercise 3.1. List 2 foods that can be preserved by using A. Salt and sugar. B. Acid. C. Oil and wax. D. Chemicals. 2. A. Which radiations are commonly used for preserving foods? B. Which foods can be preserved by radiation? 10.5. Methods of storing non-perishable foods. You are aware that rodents and insects often attack foods such as cereals, pulses, flours, etc. They eat up the food and their excreta gets mixed up with the food, making it unfit for consumption. However, non-perishable foods are easy to preserve and store for long durations. If you do not give due attention to the proper storage, these foods deteriorate in quality and can get contaminated, resulting in a considerable wastage of food. You must bear in mind and act on the following points for the storage of non-perishable foods. I. Clean and thoroughly dry the pulses and grains. 2. Store in clean, dry and airtight containers. 3. Add indigenous substances like neem leaves, turmeric or coat the pulses and grains with oil to protect these from microorganisms and insects. 4. Ensure that the room in which you store these foods is well ventilated and free from leakages, cracks and crevices in the wall to avoid seepage of water and have a cemented floor. To prevent rodent attack, you may use baits and traps. Check the stored grains and pulses periodically. If you find these infested, you must remove the stock, clean it up and sun-dry before restoring it. 7. Take care not to mix up old stock with the fresh one. Insects and rodents spoil foods like pulses, grains and flours. Clean and sun-dry the grains and pulses and store these in properly ventilated, moisture and insect-free storerooms. Practical activity 2A. List 4 non-perishable foods. B. How should you store the following in your home? I. Wheat and rice. 2. Flour. Practical activity 3.1. List the foods that were preserved last year in your home. 2. Indicate the methods of preservation you used. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 10.6. Let us sum up depending on their degree of perishability. Foods can be categorized as non-perishable, semi-perishable and perishable foods. Main causes of food spoilage are microbial growth or action of microorganisms, enzyme action and damage by insects and rodents. Preservation of food aims at destroying the agents of food spoilage or slowing down their activity. Preservation helps in storing the foods when the availability of foods is in plenty so as to use these at a time when they are less easily available and are expensive. We commonly use methods like cold storage, freezing, refrigeration, boiling, sterilization, pasteurization, canning, dehydration, chemical preservation and dry storage for preserving and storing a variety of foods. 10.7 Glossary Blanche, preheating in boiling water enzymes, an organic catalyst. Humidity, moisture radiation, exposure to gamma rays or ultraviolet rays. Indigenous, local. Maturity, ripening. Microorganisms, organisms not visible to naked eye. Pathogenic, disease-causing. Putrefaction, becoming rotten. Relative humidity, percentage of moisture present in air. Thawing, becoming less cold. Toxicity, harmful effects. 10.8 Answers to Check Your Progress exercises. Check Your Progress exercise 1. A. Perishable. B. Semi-perishable. C. Non-perishable. D. Semi-perishable. E. Semi-perishable. 2. Microorganisms, enzymes, insect and rodent damage. 3. Methods of food preservation either destroy the microorganisms or slow down their activity. Check Your Progress exercise 2.1. The aim of food preservation is to ensure a. Safety from pathogenic organisms or toxicity. B. Maintenance of optimum quality of color, texture, flavor and nutritive value. 2. Cold storage, mangoes, cauliflower. Freezing, peas, carrots. Refrigeration, meat, milk. Check Your Progress exercise 3.1. A. Mangoes, amla. B. Vegetables, tomato sauce. C. Lemons, apples. D. Cereals, vegetables. 2. A. Gamma rays and ultraviolet rays. B. Breads, cake, packaged food. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.